What if I told you that behind the glamorous world of Gucci lies a shocking story of a hotel boy's dream, a family torn apart by greed and a brutal murder? To uncover the dark secrets behind the world's most luxurious brand. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single moment of this incredible story. Today, I want to take you on a journey. It's a story about big dreams and beautiful, luxurious things. But it is also a story about pain, about betrayal, and finally, about success. This is not a made-up story. It is a true story. It is the story of a man who started with almost nothing and created a name that the entire world now knows and respects: Gucci. Yes, that is the name you see in glamorous fashion magazines and on television. It's the brand worn by movie stars, by kings and queens, and by millionaires. But what if I told you that the man who started this billion-dollar company once worked as a hotel porter? It's true. He opened doors for rich guests. He carried their heavy luggage. He stood quietly by the staircase wearing a simple uniform. He was just a boy with a secret dream in his heart. Today, I'm going to tell you how that boy became a legend. I invite you to listen until the very end. When you do, you will not only learn English, you will learn about life, about business, about struggle, and about courage. You will see how a powerful idea, a vision, can survive even when a family fights and tries to destroy it. Every word in this story will be spoken slowly, clearly, and simply. This way you can listen, you can learn, and you can grow with every sentence. So now find a comfortable place. Take a deep breath, and let's begin. Part 1. The Hotel Boy. Let me take you back in time to the year 1881. A baby boy was born in a beautiful city called Florence in Italy. His name was Guccio Gucci. His family was not rich. In fact, they lived a very simple life. His father, Gabriello Gucci, was a leather craftsman. A craftsman is someone who makes things beautifully with their hands. He made small leather items, things like belts for trousers, saddles for horses, and simple bags. He worked very, very hard, but the family did not earn much money. Life was often difficult. Guccio was a quiet boy. He didn't have a lot of toys to play with, and he didn't wear new fancy clothes. But he had something that many children did not have. He had curiosity. He was always watching the world around him. He would look at the people in the streets of Florence and think to himself, why are some people so rich? Why do they dress so beautifully? What makes them different from us? He never said these questions out loud. He kept them inside. But he watched, he listened, and he observed everything. When he was still a young man, maybe around 17 or 18 years old, Guccio made a big decision. He decided to leave Italy. He was looking for a job, of course, but he was also looking for a better future, for something more exciting. His journey took him to London, the capital of England, and it was there in that big, busy city that his life started to change forever. He found a job at the Savoy Hotel. At that time, the Savoy was one of the most luxurious and famous hotels in the world. But Guccio was not a guest at the hotel. He was a porter. A porter is a person who helps the guests. They carry their bags, they open the heavy doors, and sometimes they do other small jobs, always quietly and politely. So every day, Guccio put on his uniform. He stood up straight near the hotel entrance, waiting for the wealthy guests to arrive. Now I want you to listen very carefully, because this is the real turning point in his life. Most porters would just do their job, get paid, and go home. They wouldn't think much about it. But Guccio was different. He watched. He observed every small detail about the rich people who walked through those doors. He saw the way they dressed, the beautiful fabrics of their clothes. He noticed their shiny shoes, their elegant coats, and especially their leather bags. And as he carried those bags, he had a thought, a powerful thought. He realized these people carry bags that show their class, their importance. Their style isn't just about fashion. It's about status. It shows who they are. And then came the idea that would change everything. What if I could make something like that? What if I could take the beautiful craftsmanship of Italy and use it to create luxury fashion? That one thought stayed in his mind. It was like a little seed being planted. The magic of Gucci was born right there in silence in the mind of a young man wearing a hotel porter's uniform. For years, Guccio continued his work at the hotel. He was patient. He didn't rush to start a business right away. Instead, he studied. He didn't study from books. He studied people. He watched how the wealthy guests talked to each other. He watched how they held their expensive bags. He paid attention to what they liked and what they hated. He was slowly beginning to understand rich people, how they think, how they shop, and what makes them feel special and powerful. He was learning about luxury just by watching it from the side. And during all this time, he never ever forgot where he came from. He remembered his father back in Florence working in his small leather workshop. He remembered the smell of the leather and the sound of his father's tools. And one day, after many years in London, he decided it was time to go back home. Guccio returned to Florence in the early 1900s. He was not a boy anymore. He was a man, and now he had a plan. He was around 39 years old when he finally opened his own small shop for leather goods in 1921. He called it simply Gucci. At first, it was not a big fashion brand. He sold high-quality leather bags. The designs were inspired by the elegant luggage he had seen at the Savoy Hotel in London. His goal was simple. He wanted to bring that feeling of luxury and style to Italy using the amazing skills of local craftsmen. But it was not easy. He didn't have a lot of money to start. He worked every single day for very long hours. He did everything with his own hands, designing the bags, stitching the leather, and selling them to customers. But slowly, very slowly, people started to notice. They saw that his leather bags were beautiful. They were strong, and they were incredibly stylish. They had a special feeling of class and elegance. Soon, the name Gucci became famous in the city of Florence. People didn't just say, "I need to buy a bag." Instead, they started to say, "I want a Gucci." And that, my friend, is how a fashion empire begins. Part 2. The Rise of Gucci. While the bags were elegant and the craftsmanship was perfect, the road to success was not a smooth one. Guccio wasn't just competing against other brands. He was also fighting against the expectations inside his own family. You see, Guccio wasn't just creating a business. He was trying to create a legacy, something that would last long after he was gone. And creating a legacy often comes with difficult challenges. One of the biggest challenges was his own sons. By the late 1930s, Guccio had built a strong name and reputation for his brand. His bags were now wanted by very important people, royalty movie stars, and powerful businessmen. The name Gucci was starting to shine brightly. But the real power, the real global transformation of the brand would come with the help of his sons. Guccio had 3 sons who became involved in the business. There was Aldo, the oldest. He was very driven and confident, and sometimes a little bit forceful in his decisions. Then there was Vasco, the second son, who was much quieter and less interested in the business side of things. Finally, there was Rodolfo, the youngest, who at first was not interested in the family business at all. But Guccio wasn't just creating a business empire. He was, without knowing it, creating a future battle for control. As his brand grew bigger and bigger, his sons all wanted to have their own say in how the company should be run. It was becoming clear that a time would come when Guccio's sons would fight for power. Each son believed that his own vision for Gucci was the right one. But before that family war began, the brand had to grow even bigger. And it would grow mainly because Aldo, the eldest son, was determined to take Gucci to new heights. In the 1950s, Aldo made a very bold move. He decided to take Gucci from being a small Florence-based brand and turn it into a global empire. He looked towards America. He saw that America, with its growing wealth and its glamorous Hollywood lifestyle, was the perfect place for Gucci's beautiful leather bags, shoes, and other accessories. Americans loved luxury. They loved status symbols. And Gucci was about to become one of the most powerful status symbols of all time. But Aldo faced a huge challenge. He had to make Gucci more than just a high-quality product. He had to make it a cultural phenomenon, something people dreamed about. So he focused on advertising, on marketing, and on creating a story that would make people desire Gucci products. Aldo's genius was in making Gucci a complete lifestyle. He didn't just sell products, he sold a dream. He sold the idea that when you wore Gucci, you were not just showing that you were wealthy. You were showing that you were part of a special elite group of people. Gucci became a symbol of sophistication, class, and world-class taste. One of the key moments that helped make Gucci's identity so strong was the creation of its now famous green and red stripes. These stripes were not just a pretty decoration. They became the mark of luxury. If you saw those stripes on a bag or a belt, you knew immediately that it was Gucci. It was simple, it was bold, and it was incredibly powerful. But how did those stripes become so iconic? It all started when Aldo Gucci decided that his products needed something special, something memorable that people could recognize from far away. He found his inspiration in the idea of Italian equestrian style, the look of horses and riding equipment used by wealthy Italians in the past. He combined this traditional heritage with modern fashion and design. It was a brilliant idea. The green and red stripes became the signature design that would be recognized all over the world. People began to connect those colors with luxury, elegance, and exclusivity. As the 1960s arrived, Gucci had officially become an international phenomenon. The brand was no longer just about handbags. It had expanded into making shoes, belts, scarves, ties, and even clothing. Gucci was everywhere. And the more Aldo pushed the brand forward, the more it became connected to royalty-famous film stars and the very rich. Jackie Kennedy, the wife of the U.S. President John F. Kennedy, became one of the most famous people to wear Gucci. A handbag she often carried became so famous that it was nicknamed the Jackie O bag. This wasn't just a bag, it was a symbol of power, style, and grace. Women all over the world wanted to look like Jackie Kennedy, and so they wanted to wear what she wore. Gucci wasn't just a brand anymore, it was a story. The brand's connection with Hollywood grew stronger every year. Famous actresses like Audrey Hepburn, Sophia Loren, and Grace Kelly were all seen wearing Gucci. In fact, some of Gucci's designs were so beautiful that they were worn in movies as part of the characters' costumes. This Hollywood connection only made Gucci more desirable. The more famous people who wore it, the more it became a symbol of status. Gucci was no longer just a small leather goods shop in Florence. It was a global powerhouse with new stores opening in London, New York, and Tokyo. The dream that Guccio Gucci had started with in his small shop was now a massive global brand. But while Gucci was rising in the world, something else was happening behind the closed doors of the family's homes. The family itself was starting to fall apart. The story of Gucci was becoming a story of betrayal, jealousy, and conflict just as much as it was a story of success. Guccio Gucci, the founder, passed away in 1953. After his death, his sons Aldo Vasco and Rodolfo each wanted to take the business in their own direction. This division in the family would soon turn into an open war for control of the Gucci empire. Aldo, the eldest son, had been running the company for years, but he was now facing strong competition from his brothers who believed they should have more control. This family war would not only change the future of Gucci, but would also set the stage for some of the darkest moments in the company's history. Part 3. The Gucci family drama. Aldo was ambitious, bold, and always full of new ideas. He wanted to expand the brand all over the globe, and he was not shy about making big, risky decisions. But his brothers Vasco and Rodolfo also had their own ideas. Vasco, who had once been uninterested in the family business, now wanted to have a say in how things were run. Rodolfo, the youngest, was often caught in the middle, not sure whose side to take. As time passed, Aldo became more and more assertive. He acted like he was the only one in charge. His brothers started to feel left out and ignored. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about pride, ambition, and the deep desire for control over the famous Gucci name. Aldo had poured his heart and soul into making Gucci a success, but his overconfidence started to lead to mistakes. He became obsessed with expanding the business. While his drive was what made Gucci a global brand, it also made him reckless. He started to borrow huge amounts of money to open more stores and create more products, thinking that constant expansion was the only key to Gucci's future. But all of this came at a very high price. Family unity and trust were breaking down. By the late 1970s, Gucci was struggling to keep its top position in the fashion world. The brand had become a synonym for luxury, but that also meant it was facing intense pressure from its rivals, especially in the exciting and fast-moving fashion world of the 1980s. Companies like Louis Vuitton, Prada, and Chanel were starting to challenge Gucci's power. Aldo's leadership was now being questioned not only by people outside the company, but by his own family. The rivalry between the Gucci brothers was getting worse. Vasco, who had once been happy to stay in the background, suddenly became more involved. He looked at his brother Aldo's decisions and saw them as reckless and dangerous. Vasco believed that Aldo's desperate need for expansion had left the company weak and vulnerable. At the same time, Rodolfo, who had mostly stayed away from the company, began to complain about how things were being handled. The family's once strong bond was starting to crack under the pressure. But the real turning point, the moment that changed everything, came when Rodolfo's son, Maurizio Gucci, entered the picture. Maurizio had spent much of his life away from the family business. He had studied in Switzerland and had even tried to start his own career before his uncle Aldo encouraged him to come back into the Gucci company. Maurizio was young, he was determined, and he was full of ambition. He wanted more. He wanted to take Gucci to the next level, but he wanted to do it in his own way. The tension between him and his uncle Aldo began to rise almost immediately. Maurizio had ideas that did not match Aldo's vision. Aldo's constant push for expansion and his focus on profit seemed too risky to Maurizio. He believed that Gucci needed innovation and fresh ideas to survive, not just more stores. Maurizio's arrival in the Gucci business was a critical moment. Maurizio was determined to make a name for himself not just as a Gucci heir, but as the future leader of the entire company. But Maurizio wasn't just looking for a change in design or marketing. He wanted to take complete control. And to do that, he knew he had to outsmart his powerful Uncle Aldo. And that is exactly what he did. Maurizio started to play a very dangerous game. He made friends with people who had problems with Aldo, including powerful members of the company's board. Quietly and subtly, he began to build his own network of support inside Gucci. Maurizio understood that the only way to truly take control of Gucci was to buy out his own family members. So he began using the family's own wealth against them. With the help of outside investors, Maurizio planned his move. His betrayal was swift and quiet. He made sure to keep his plan a secret from Aldo. One day, Aldo found out what was happening, but by then it was too late. Maurizio had already gathered enough support to push Aldo out of his position. The man who had taken Gucci from a small shop in Florence and turned it into a global powerhouse was now cast aside, powerless. Maurizio had become the new head of Gucci. Aldo did not go down without a fight, of course. He was completely devastated by his nephew's actions. The betrayal hurt even more because Maurizio was not just a nephew to him. He was a symbol of Gucci's future. But in the end, Aldo was forced to step aside. He lost control of Gucci to the very family he had built the empire for. But Maurizio's victory was not complete. While he had gained control, he did not have the full support of the rest of the Gucci family. Rodolfo and Vasco were still skeptical about Maurizio's leadership. They believed he was too young and not ready to handle the immense power he had just seized. Maurizio Gucci now had everything he thought he wanted. He was in charge of one of the world's most famous luxury brands. But with great power comes great responsibility and also great pressure. The Gucci empire had grown into a multi-billion-dollar business, but it was also very fragile. The world of luxury fashion was always changing, and Gucci had to evolve to stay at the top. Maurizio had a new vision for the brand. He wanted to modernize Gucci and make it appeal to a younger, more fashionable audience. But there was one big problem: his bold new ideas started to clash with the traditionalists in the family. Maurizio's ambition had pushed many people away, and now even the brand's most loyal customers were unsure about the new direction Gucci was taking. Maurizio Gucci's story was no longer just about business and fashion. It was now about betrayal, love, and revenge. The same man who had taken control of one of the world's most prestigious fashion houses was now about to become part of a scandal that would shock the entire world. Maurizio's personal life was in many ways just as dramatic as the business conflicts inside the Gucci family. In 1972, he had married Patrizia Reggiani, a beautiful and very ambitious woman. Patrizia came from a wealthy background, but her relationship with Maurizio wasn't just about love. It was also about power. She wanted to be a part of the Gucci legacy, and she saw Maurizio as her ticket to a life of incredible luxury and influence. Together, they looked like the perfect glamorous couple. But behind the closed doors of their beautiful homes, their marriage was full of struggles. In the early years, Maurizio and Patrizia's relationship was rocky. They were often seen at glamorous parties, living a life of excess. But their marriage was far from perfect. Maurizio's growing commitment to the Gucci business took a heavy toll on his personal life. He became distant, more focused on the company's growth, and he left Patrizia feeling lonely and neglected. Patrizia, who had always craved attention and power, became deeply frustrated with Maurizio's lack of interest in her and her desires. She wanted more than just a life of luxury. She wanted control. She wanted influence, and she wanted a bigger role in Gucci's future. As time went on, Patrizia's dissatisfaction with her marriage grew stronger. She was not happy just being the wife of the Gucci heir. She wanted to be in control of the brand herself. But Maurizio was becoming more and more focused on expanding Gucci's global reach. He had already made big moves to modernize the company. But at the same time, his marriage was starting to fall apart. By the early 1980s, Maurizio had completely distanced himself from Patrizia. Their divorce became inevitable. What followed was one of the most public and bitter divorces in modern history. Patrizia felt humiliated and betrayed by Maurizio, and she was not going to let him get away without paying a high price. The separation left her emotionally shattered, but it also filled her with a deep sense of anger and resentment toward her ex-husband. Maurizio, on the other hand, seemed cold and uninterested in trying to fix their broken relationship. He was ready to move on, focusing even more on Gucci's future, while Patrizia was left devastated by how things had turned out. The tension between Maurizio and Patrizia grew to a boiling point. Patrizia's resentment was growing with every passing day, and she could not shake off the terrible sense of betrayal. She was no longer just angry at Maurizio for leaving her. She was furious at how he had, in her eyes, ruined everything she had built around the Gucci name. As the years passed, Patrizia developed an obsession with Maurizio's life, watching his every move from a distance and growing more and more bitter. It was at this point that Patrizia began to plot her revenge. She didn't just want revenge in the form of a bitter divorce settlement. She wanted something far more shocking. She wanted Maurizio dead. To her, this wasn't just about getting back at him for the divorce. It was about reclaiming the control and power she felt she had lost when Maurizio had left her for another woman and for the business. Maurizio's life was starting to unravel in the most dramatic way possible. Patrizia began secretly looking for hitmen to carry out her terrible plan. She reached out to a former acquaintance who had connections to criminal groups and started to put the pieces together for a murder plot. She didn't want just anyone to kill Maurizio. She wanted someone who could do it in a way that might seem like an accident or a random crime. She carefully chose the date and the location planning to carry out the murder in the most shocking way she could imagine. On March 27, 1995, Maurizio Gucci was walking into his office at Gucci's headquarters in Milan. It was a typical morning, and Maurizio had no idea what was about to happen. As he approached the entrance of his office building, a loud gunshot rang out, striking him in the back. Maurizio fell to the ground, completely unable to defend himself. His death was swift. He was shot 3 times, with each shot hitting him in a critical area. The assassin, a man named Benedetto Ceraulo, had been hired by Patrizia. He was paid to kill Maurizio as part of the elaborate scheme that Patrizia had masterminded. She wanted him dead, not just for personal revenge, but to make a statement to remind Maurizio that he could not simply walk away from their past without consequences. As Maurizio lay dying on the cold marble floor, he must have thought about the family business he had fought so hard to build. He had made a name for himself in the fashion world, but now his life had come to a tragic and violent end. Patrizia, who had orchestrated the murder, was now free from Maurizio's shadow. But her terrible actions would soon lead to her own dramatic downfall. The murder of Maurizio Gucci was a sensational crime that immediately captured the attention of the media all over the world. The fashion world, which had been watching Gucci's dramatic changes for years, was now in complete shock. How could such a powerful and successful man die in such a violent and brutal way? The investigation into Maurizio's murder was fast, and it didn't take long for the police to uncover the shocking truth. Patrizia Reggiani, Maurizio's ex-wife, was arrested and charged with planning the murder. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and it became clear that she had been the mastermind behind the entire plot. Patrizia had planned the murder very carefully, using her wealth and influence to arrange everything from hiring the hitmen to the logistics of the crime. She had been driven by a toxic mix of jealousy, revenge, and a twisted sense of power. Patrizia's arrest stunned the world. She had once been the woman behind the glamorous Gucci image, but now she was the face of a terrible tragedy. The once promising future of the Gucci brand was now overshadowed by the dark legacy of a family that had been torn apart by betrayal, murder, and revenge. After Maurizio's death, the Gucci brand had to deal with a storm of controversy. The family arguments, the bitter divorce, and the murder that had unfolded so publicly had left a deep scar on Gucci's reputation. Many people believed that the company would crumble under the weight of this terrible scandal. But in reality, the spirit of Gucci was too strong to be destroyed by the tragic events of the past. At the time of Maurizio's death, the Gucci brand was a bit stagnant. The company was facing many challenges: internal conflict, a lack of clear direction, and an increasingly competitive luxury market. Gucci's traditional image was beginning to feel old and outdated, and the luxury industry was changing fast. The Gucci company was at a crossroads. Would they continue on the same troubled path, or would they take a bold risk and completely reinvent the brand? It didn't take long for new leadership to step in. The first step was to bring in Tom Ford, a young and talented designer from the United States. Ford's entry into Gucci marked the beginning of a brand new era for the company, an era that would completely revitalize the brand. Ford was bold, he was innovative, and he had a unique vision. He was determined to transform Gucci into a global fashion powerhouse again, and that was as modern and cutting-edge as it was luxurious. Tom Ford's first collections for Gucci were game changers. His designs were edgy, modern, and very sensual, and they connected deeply with a younger, more fashion-forward audience. Under his direction, Gucci became synonymous with high-end glamour and sophistication. It wasn't long before the brand was once again at the very center of the fashion world. Under Tom Ford's leadership, Gucci experienced a true renaissance. Ford's first Gucci fashion show in 1995, just a short time after Maurizio's death, was a powerful statement to the world. He showcased a bold new vision that mixed luxury with sex appeal, and it was an instant success. The company's revenue skyrocketed as Ford's designs caught the attention of everyone in the fashion world. His work had a massive impact on Gucci's image and identity, turning it back into one of the most desired fashion labels globally. In just a few years, Ford helped increase Gucci's profits by over 500%. His provocative advertising campaigns, which often featured famous supermodels and celebrities, brought Gucci back to the forefront of fashion. The brand was now known for its bold designs, its luxurious appeal, and its powerful presence in the industry. Ford's influence was not just about design, it was also about marketing. He transformed Gucci from a traditional old-fashioned brand into a global fashion phenomenon. His use of advertising and celebrity endorsements helped make Gucci a status symbol for the rich and famous once again. The brand became synonymous with success, power, and wealth. Gucci's rise under Tom Ford wasn't just about design and innovation, it was also about a financial explosion. In the late 1990s, Gucci's revenues exploded from around $500 million to an incredible $2.5 billion. The brand had officially bounced back from the crisis it had suffered after Maurizio's death. One of the most impressive things about Gucci's resurgence was how it managed to capture the attention of a new generation of young, wealthy consumers. As the 2000s progressed, Gucci became more than just a luxury brand. It became a symbol of modern success. Celebrities, musicians, actors, and athletes all wore Gucci, and it became an essential part of the fashion elite's wardrobe. By the early 2000s, Gucci was one of the most valuable fashion brands in the world. It was also one of the most recognizable names in global luxury, commanding top prices for its handbags, shoes, and clothing collections. In 2019, Gucci's brand value was estimated to be around $18 billion, and its annual revenues had surpassed $10 billion. This was a huge turnaround, especially considering the brand had once been on the brink of collapse just a few years earlier. Tom Ford's time at Gucci ended in 2004, but the brand's growth didn't stop there. Alessandro Michele, who became Gucci's creative director in 2015, brought his own unique and eclectic vision to the brand. He embraced gender fluidity, bold patterns, and a mix of different styles that appealed to an even younger and more diverse audience. Under Michel's direction, Gucci once again reinvented itself, and it quickly became one of the most talked-about brands in the fashion world. His collections were filled with unexpected combinations of bold colors, beautiful floral patterns, and historical references. They resonated with a generation that was looking for something different from traditional luxury brands. Gucci's revenue under Michele has continued to grow, and in 2020, the brand's global sales were estimated to be around $9 billion, maintaining its status as one of the most powerful and influential fashion labels in the world. In 2016, Patrizia Reggiani was granted parole after serving 18 years of her sentence. She was released from prison at the age of 67 and returned to the luxurious life she had once known. But it was a very different life from the one of power and fame she had enjoyed as Maurizio's wife. She was often seen wearing high-end fashion and continued to live in the lap of luxury, even though her past was permanently stained by the murder of the man she once loved. Today, Gucci stands as a global fashion powerhouse. The brand has continued to thrive in the competitive world of luxury fashion, constantly evolving and embracing new trends. It is now a part of the Kering Group, one of the largest luxury conglomerates in the world, which also owns other famous brands like Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta, and Balenciaga. Gucci's success is not just measured by its profits or its prestige. It's also about the legacy it continues to build. The brand has become a symbol of empowerment, innovation, and timeless style. It has evolved from a family business into a global icon, with its commitment to sustainability and creativity paving the way for future generations in fashion. Gucci's journey from a family-run business to a global fashion icon is one of the most incredible stories in the history of fashion. Despite the tragedy that struck the Gucci family, the brand's amazing ability to reinvent itself and adapt to new times is what has made it an enduring symbol of luxury creativity and success. Maurizio Gucci's death. Patrizia Reggiani's obsession and the murder that shocked the world are all part of the larger story of Gucci. A story of triumph and tragedy, betrayal and success, and a brand that refuses to die. It serves as a powerful reminder that even in the face of great loss, something new and extraordinary can emerge. The legacy of Gucci will continue to inspire fashion lovers, entrepreneurs, and dreamers all over the world for many years to come. And while the family's story may have been full of scandal, betrayal, and tragedy, it ultimately shows the resilience of the Gucci name and the incredible power of reinvention. And that is the end of the unbelievable story of Gucci. A brand that was born from hard work, was nearly destroyed by greed and betrayal, and was finally brought back to life through vision, courage, and change. What can we learn from this story? First, success can be taken away if we forget our values. Second, family or business trust is a powerful thing, but so is betrayal. Third, even out after the darkest moments, it is never too late to rebuild. Fourth, leadership matters. The right people can turn failure into amazing success. And fifth, change is not the end. It can be the beginning of something greater. Gucci's story teaches us that life isn't just about rising up. It's about rising up again after we fall. That is what makes a brand, a person, or a dream truly legendary. So whether you are learning English, building a dream of your own, or just trying to find some motivation in your own story, please don't give up. Keep learning. Keep moving forward. And remember that even the biggest success stories started with pain, struggle, and a choice to keep going. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. This is your place for stories, book summaries, life lessons, motivation, and learning. English every day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you in the next story.